we have this little storage box that someone attached to the back of the cockpit, which I would like to remove to free up leg room, and also because behind it is the shore power connector, and I'd like to have better access to that. So let's see if we can get this removed. I can open a winch handle museum. So unfortunately, I couldn't find the clip of the actual box coming off of the wall, but it was pretty simple. There were just 2 bolts I had to remove, and it came right off. And then I used a little thickened epoxy to cover up the holes for the moment, which I'll have to clean up and make a little nicer later. Okay, here we have one of the 2 coamings, and you can see they're pretty rough. There's 2 horn cleats that are installed here, which are next to the winches. I believe this is the outside. Yeah, this is the starboard coamings, and this is the outside of it. So you can see the one winch, the stand for it is here, and the other one is right there, and then you can tie off the sheets here and here. So they need to be completely sanded down. I mean, there's some putty, there's even moss growing here. Down here where it joins in with the curved part that goes into the cabin top, there's some tear out, there's multiple sets of holes. I have turned a dowel out of some teak that will fit down in these. This will have to be patched. And here we have a spot that's kind of starting to split. I need to glue up. And right here it looks like there's just a chunk that fell off, so I'll have to graft on a new piece here. But yeah, sand it down, put a couple coats of clear epoxy on it, and varnish it. I'm not sure what this was. Snap, maybe there was a Dodger or something that hooked in here, and then I don't know what that little thing was for, but I will probably just remove them, and then if I discover later what they're for, I can put something new back on. I've removed the hardware and the various little screws and whatnot, and then down here I've got this new piece grafted on. I've glued up the split, and I've inlaid some new pieces of teak to cover where that tear out was, and also one of the larger holes. So let's hit this with some sandpaper and see what the wood looks like underneath. So here is the coaming sanded with 80 and then 120. Looks pretty good. These dark areas here go behind the mounting brackets for the winches, and this long dark area on the bottom is what's pressed up against the side of the cockpit, so I'm not too worried about that. So really this bright stuff is what's going to be visible. And the patches down here I think came out pretty good too. Okay, here I am working on the traveler support. This is a solid piece of teak that goes from one coaming to the other. Now, it's always hard to know what is really original and what was added on later. I was kind of surprised when I took this track off, which seems to be stainless steel, that it wasn't actually a T-track. It's just a piece of flat bar. And what turned it into a T was that there was a thin piece of teak trim underneath, just the right width and thickness, so that when this was mounted on top, it made a T profile. And of course that thin teak had completely deteriorated and just fell apart in little scraps. So I have milled some new teak that I'm going to be gluing on top here with some Gorilla Glue, just to make sure it's waterproof. And then I'll remount this back on top. The support is asymmetrical. Let's see if you can see that. And the more right-angle-y side faces the cockpit, so that the tip of the top is facing the end of the boom. I assume that's the reason. And then the whole thing is held on with really long through bolts that go straight through these recessed holes all the way through the deck, and are fastened with nuts from underneath, which you can reach from the lazarette. So this thing was totally nasty looking. I've partly sanded it. After I glue this piece of teak on top, I'll finish sanding it. Oh, also there was a split here, which I'll glue back together. And then I will epoxy the whole thing with the special clear hardener from West Systems, probably 3 coats. And I'll save the varnishing for once it's on the boat. Well, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe I'll varnish it now. The new piece of teak has been glued on top, and as soon as this glue dries, I'll clean up the squeeze out, because this Gorilla Glue kind of does this foamy expansion thing, and then finish sanding the whole thing down. We've got the new strip glued on top and sanded. Looks pretty good. So the next step is to drill through the new strip from the back so that the holes all line up correctly. And once these holes are in place, I'll finish sanding the whole thing down. The traveler base has been reinstalled. It is fully epoxied, 3 coats of clear epoxy on here. And now I think I'm going to wait till the coamings are in and then varnish all of it together. But even without the varnish, it looks pretty good. Certainly it looks a lot better than it did before. Also, as kind of an aside, I got rid of the old decrepit shore power inlet and installed a new one. And this was all where this box used to be, which I tore off. So still have a lot of cosmetic work to do here on the fiberglass, but at least I have shore power. I have a Travelers. Technically now I can put a boom on and at least sail with a mainsail. So the coamings are fully epoxied, and I just have them kind of resting in place here. I haven't screwed them in yet, but they're gonna look pretty good, I think. The next step is to figure out how to sort of tie them seamlessly into this chunk on the side of the cabin top. And once I get that worked out, I will screw these into place and put some sealant along the back where it meets the deck so that water stays out on the side decks when it rains.